able to save me about $10,000 on the exchange rates of the transfer for the purchase of the property. Traditional banks are really not the best way to transfer money when it comes to international transactions. Friends, have you heard the big drama about money laundering scandal involving Mexican banks, specifically Intercam Bank and C Banco? Now, Mexican president demanded to see proof to these accusations. So we'll see what comes out of that. But this video is not about US-Mexico political drama. This video, raw, unedited, like I'm literally just heading out for my walk, is about protecting you, me, and our hard-earned money, you guys. So in this video, I'm going to share with you a few reasons why we should care about this scandal and how we can protect ourselves. And make sure to stick around until the very end, because I'm going to share with you two excellent tools that are going to help us to stay a little bit more sovereign and have more control of our money. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay guys, let's start with the scoop. Okay, so the scoop is that just this week, U.S. Treasury Financial Crime Enforcement Network issued unprecedented orders targeting specific Mexican institutions. And those institutions are Intercam Bank, C Banco, and a firm that's called Vector Casa de Bolsas. And basically, these financial institutions have been identified as primary money laundering concerns related to drug trafficking. And so what's the impact? What does this mean for us, right? Essentially, the US financial institutions are now prohibited or have very severe restrictions on money transfers between US and these particular banks. Well, how does this impact us? A lot of foreigners who don't have their RFC, so people who don't have their residency, but they do spend a lot of time here in Mexico, the only bank that they can actually open an account at and transfer money is Intercam Bank. And that's one of the banks involved, right? So people who have been heavily relying on Intercam Bank for their transfers are not able to transfer money here, which, you know, that could be a really significant issue. I know a lot of people who are impacted by this, and this is the reason why I'm making this video, because I wanted to share with you the solutions, right? But first, before we get to the solutions, this is the scoop, and this is what we need to understand, right? I always, to anyone that works with us who is looking to purchase a property here in Mexico, the question comes up, well, should we get Mexican residency? And I always suggest 1000% yes, because in that regard, you wouldn't be as affected by these changes in rules, right? And essentially government interruption, and I'm not going to get into that because I have my own opinions, but we're going to stick to, you know, problem solution video today. So now guys, with all of that said, traditional banks are really not the best way to transfer money when it comes to international transactions. And I haven't really made a specific video about this, so this is very timely, and I think this is going to be very helpful for many of you. But if you watch my channel for a while, then you probably know my story. When we bought our first condo here, the world was shut down and we couldn't fly to Canada, and we had put in an offer on a property that needed a deposit, right? A very large deposit. And we couldn't move the money with a traditional banking system because there was limitations. You had to be present in person, all the things. So it took me a couple of days to figure out a way around that, and I did figure it out. And at that time, I realized how old school the traditional SWIFT banking system is, right? There are just so many negatives when it comes to it, and there are incredible alternatives, which I found in my search 5 years ago, and now those solutions are a lot more advanced and they're available to anybody. Okay, so what should your action plan be if you're someone who is already spending some time in Mexico, or you're considering to come into Mexico to retire, or you're going to be spending 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 months here? Because I know some people who actually live here full time and they still bank with Intercam Bank, and that's the only option they have because they don't have their residency or they don't know of these tools. So number one, you want to be prepared, right? And this is what I always tell all of our clients as well as my community members. Make sure that you do get your Mexican residency. The process is pretty straightforward, and you know, it's not going to take your time. ton of time. You don't have to live in Mexico to keep your residency. Yes, you do have to spend some time here, but there is no, harsh requirements on having to stay here for 8 months, 9 months, whatever, like some other countries have. So why not have the ability to diversify and get another residency, possibly get another passport, right? With residency, you're going to be able to open a bank account in any bank that you wish, right? I currently bank with Santander. I really enjoy them. They offer great interest rates that beat any bank, Canada or US, and I absolutely love it. Now, that is a personal choice, obviously, you guys. If you are, worried and affected by the news, do your research and that you're comfortable with the decisions that you're making. I'm just sharing my story, right? So being prepared is key, and part of that is obtaining Mexican residency. But what should you do if you don't have Mexican residency and you need to have an option to transfer money to Mexico right now for whatever reason? Well, number one option is Wise. I have been using them for over 5 years and they're amazing. I'm going to drop the link in the description below so you can check them out. They've recently raised their limits. I think before you weren't able to move more than 5,000 at a time. Now those limits have been raised. I think it depends on how long you've had an account with them. So if you're new and you just open an account with them, then your limits will be a little bit less than that. But as you build trust with them, then the limit will go up. So they're amazing for just day-to-day transfers. Their exchange rates beat the banks by a mile, and it's easy, smooth. You get your money super quickly. Number two, which is my absolute favorite, is OFX. They are amazing because they allow you to move larger sums of money. So if you are considering purchasing a property here, I highly recommend checking them out. I'll drop the link in the description below. I use them to buy all of our properties here, and I use them to this day. If you have any questions about it, drop them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them for you. I'll tell you one other quick story. When I was calling all the banks frantically when we were buying the properties, OFX was able to save me about $10,000 on the exchange rates of the transfer for the purchase of the property, which was insane, you guys. It's just so interesting how we are so conditioned to think that the banking system that we've known for many, many years is the only way to go. But the reality of it is not. You can find a much better opportunity out there that can save you thousands of dollars. And let me tell you one more story. A client of ours she was purchasing a condo here, and I did recommend her to use OFX. She wasn't sure, and that's totally fine, because you know what? Again, you guys, this isn't financial advice. This isn't telling you what to do. Make sure to go and do your own research into these providers. I'm just sharing my experience. Anyways, she wasn't comfortable using them, and she ended up using a bank. And what do you know? The bank transfer lost her money. They literally lost her money. And you know why? Because Swift system is not really meant for transfer money from country to country, from bank to bank, where these services such as Wise and OFX, this is all they do. This is literally their specialty, right? So this is where I trust them so much more than the traditional bank. And that's why I wanted to share them with you. Anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this impromptu video. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? What do you think of this whole situation that's going on? What do you think about bank versus these fintech services that I just shared with you? Again, if you want to check them out, both links are in the description below. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video.